Good evening, everybody. How's it going? My name is Bill Graham, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the basic voice leading for 2-5-1s. Now, the 2-5-1 progression happens constantly through jazz music of all kinds, so we really need to know how to play this. And when I say we're going to play guide tone lines on this, what I'm talking about is we're going to play the third and the seventh of each chord. So the first thing that we need to know is if you're on the seventh of a chord, you're going to fall down a half step to the third of the next chord. And if you're on the third, you're going to stay put to become the seventh of the next chord. So let's see how that works out. In the key of C, of course, the 2-5-1 is D minor 7 to G7. This is terrible voice leading. You would never, ever, ever play it like this. To C major 7. So if we take out the fifths of those chords and put the roots only in the left hand, we've got D minor 7, the third is F, and the seventh is C. So watch what happens to each of those voices. When we go to G7, remember I said that if you're on the seventh of the chord, you're going to fall a half step to the third of the next chord. So that C falls a half step to B, which is the third of G7. Okay? That's exactly what we expected to happen. What about the other voice? Okay, so the F is the third of D minor 7. Remember we said that the third is going to stay put and become the seventh of the next chord. And indeed, there we go. So we're on G7. F has now become the seventh, and since it's the seventh, it's got to fall a half step to the third of the next chord, which is the one chord, C major 7. Okay, and what about that other voice, right? We said the B is now the third of G7, so the third stays put and becomes the seventh of the next chord. And there we go, it stays put and becomes the seventh of C major 7. I'm sure most of you watching this know all of this already. Okay, what if we played it in the other order? So instead of putting the third in the lower voice and the seventh in the upper voice, let's switch that. So now we've got the seventh in the lower voice and the third in the upper voice. Okay, cool. So we got to practice everything both ways. And another thing that we really have to practice, because jazz is such an oral art form, it's not enough to just understand these things intellectually and to have them under your fingers. You really have to make sure that you're really hearing them. So let's start out by singing each of those voices. Okay, we'll go back to our first set where we had the third of the 2 chord on the bottom and the seventh on top. But the first thing we're going to sing is just the bass notes. 2, 5, 1. Right, or we could sing it down an octave. 2, 5, 1. Doesn't really matter. Okay, let's sing the middle voice. So starting on the third. Let's do that one more time. And then the top voice. One more time on that. Okay, cool. So now we gotta also be able to sing one of those voices if we take it away. Let's start by singing the bass notes. So instead of having it there, it's going to be 2, 5, 1. So let's sing that bottom voice. If you have to sing it up an octave, that's okay. 2, 5, 1. Hold on. So the mic audio is panned over to the left only. Hold on just a second. Let me just dip over to the mixer here and fix that. Well, that's odd. My all of my pan settings are set straight up, so sorry about that. I guess you're just gonna have to deal with my voice being on the left. I do apologize. Only on the left side. What about? Let me try something. I'm going to reduce it to just one channel, I guess. Did that fix it, or did that make it worse? Or can you not hear me at all anymore? Okay, cool. So, where I left off was we're going to sing each of those voices now, but take away the piano. So we're going to play 2 of the 3 voices and sing the missing voice. Okay, or up an octave if you can't sing that low. Cool. Okay, now we're going to sing the middle voice, which, remember, starts on the 3rd, stays put and becomes the 7th of the 5 chord, and then falls down to the 3rd of the 1 chord. Alright, cool. So we'll sing it with the piano one time, and then without the piano one time. Great. And then the last voice is going to be the one that starts on the 7th of the 2 chord, falls to the 3rd of the 5 chord, and becomes the 7th of the 1 chord. So once with the piano and once without it. Okay, cool. So, the first way, we need to practice that in every key, right? So first thing we're going to do is play that in descending half steps. And so let's take it up an octave for starters, because we're going to have to get all the way down here. And if we came all the way down there, it's going to be too low. We don't want to play that. Okay. So, watch what's going to happen here. If we play a 2-5-1 in C, what's going to happen next, we're going to play another 2-5-1 down a half step from there. And the voice leading to get to there is going to be that these upper voices are going to stay put, and the bass note is going to come up a half step to C sharp, right? Because we just played a 2-5-1 in C, so next up we're going to have a 2-5-1 in B. And remember that the 2 chord in the key of B is C sharp minor 7. Cool. Top notes are going to stay the same. Bottom note comes up a half step. And now we've got our 2-5-1 in B flat. Okay? Upper voices stay the same. 2-5-1 in A. In A flat. Or excuse me. In G. G flat. In F. E. E flat. D. D flat, and then we're back where we started. Okay, cool. Now we also got to play that in the other setup. So instead of having the 3rd on the bottom and the 7th on top, we got to switch that out, okay? The 7th on the bottom and the 3rd on top. And again, let's take it up an octave, because if we end up down here, that's going to be just a little low. Okay, so 2-5-1 in C, then 2-5-1 in B, C sharp minor 7, F sharp 7, B major 7. Remember, again, the top voices stay the same. Bass note comes up. Okay, the 3rd stays put, the 7th falls. 3rd stays put, the 7th falls. Bass note comes up. Now we've got our 2-5 in A. Bass note comes up, and we've got our 2-5 in A flat. Remember, the 3rd stays put and becomes the 7th. The 7th falls to the 3rd, and then the 3rd stays put. And the 7th falls to the 3rd. Okay, now we've got our 2-5 in A, 2-5 in G flat. No, that was in G, excuse me. Now in G flat, okay, in F, in E flat, in D flat, and then back to C. Okay, cool. So, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take them around the circle. I've got some notes written down here for me just so I can remember not to leave anything out. So, why do we want to take them around the circle? So if we played a 2-5-1 in C, and then we played a 2-5 in F, that's like being on the 1 chord of a tune and then having a 2-5 into the 4. And that happens constantly in songs, right? What are some songs that happens in? It happens at the beginning of Cherokee, right? So if we were thinking we're in B flat, and then immediately we've got a 2-5 into E flat. Okay, what about the nearness of you? Alright, so we said we're in G, and then the 4 is C, so we're going to immediately have a 2-5 in C. Okay, same thing in Misty, right? It's in E flat, starts on the 1. Immediately, there's a 2-5 into the 4. So, that's why we got to know this stuff. So what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to start with our 2-5 in C, like we did before. Let's, for the sake of consistency, start with the same form to begin with. And then what's going to happen is we're going to go to our 2-5 in F. So this is kind of interesting because these upper voices are going to move in contrary motion now. So we've got E and B, and they're going to crunch in to F and B flat. Now remember, we're in the key of F, so the 2 chord is G minor 7, of which B flat is the 3rd, so that's going to stay put, and F is the 7th, so that's going to fall to E. B flat stays put, and then now we're in F. Okay, so next we go to B flat. We're still going to have contrary motion between the outer voices, but now we're going to go in the opposite direction of where we went before. So now we're to C minor 7, right? E flat is the 3rd, B flat is the 7th. So that B flat falls to A. Now the E flat is the 7th of F7, so it's going to fall to D. Okay? Next we're going to the key of E flat, so these upper voices are going to crunch back in. So it's always going to be contrary motion, but the opposite direction of where we went before. We're in A flat, so now they're going to expand back out to get to B flat minor 7. We're going to crunch back in to get to E flat minor 7. Expand back out to get to A flat minor 7. We're going to crunch back in to get to C sharp minor 7. we're going to expand back out to get to F sharp minor 7, which is, of course, a 2 chord in the key of E. Next, we're going to the key of A, so we crunch back in and get to B minor 7. Expand back out for E minor 7, 2 chord in the key of D. Crunch back in for a 2 chord in G, and then we're going to expand back out, and we've got our 2-5 in C. Okay, cool. Now we've got to do all of that again, starting from the other set, the other inversion, I guess we can call it. So we just went to F, now we got to go to C minor 7. Key of D flat, next key of G flat, key of B, key of F sharp, right? Wait a second. Yeah, so no, key of E, right, because we're going to F sharp minor 7. Excuse me. Okay, we went to the key of E, now we got to go to the key of A, and then the key of D, and then G, and then back to C. Okay, cool. So, next up, we're going to do them down in whole steps. And when we play them down in whole steps, because a whole tone scale is only 6 notes, we're going to have to repeat the whole thing again a half step away from where we started it in order to cover all 12 keys. But that's okay. We got to know these whole steps because this also happens in tunes. So think about like the bridge of Cherokee, right? Going back to Cherokee, bridge of Cherokee is a 2-5 in B, and then a 2-5 in A, and then a 2-5 in G, and then a 2-5 in F that turns into a 2-5 back into B flat, right? So same thing with the bridge of Invitation, is just those descending whole step 2-5s. So let's take a look at what the voice leading is going to be like for those, right? Once we get to 1 chord, okay, this is sort of going to be like the opposite of the half steps, right? So now instead of the bass coming up a half step, the bass is going to stay put, and the upper voices are going to come down a half step instead. And then we're back to where we started. Okay, so now we got to do all of that again, down a half step. So starting in B. Alright, great. Now we got to do it again with the other setup. It's back where we started. Okay, and then we'll do it again down a half step. Starting in B, then going to A, to G, to F, to E flat, and then we're back where we started. Alright, great. So now, we got to do all of that stuff again, but with the tritone substitutions for the 5 chord. And so I'm assuming everyone watching knows what a tritone substitution is, but if you don't, the 3rd and 7th of a 5 chord form the interval of a tritone. And they happen to also form the 3rd and 7th of another dominant 7th chord a tritone away. So on the on the G7, the 3rd is B, the 7th is F natural. Okay, well if we go a tritone away from G, that's D flat. Now B, or technically in this key, C flat, but let's not split hairs too much. And so C flat is the 7th now, and F natural is the 3rd. So, same thing, right? So anywhere that we would use a G7 to resolve to C, you know, presuming the G7 is going to resolve in a normal kind of way, we can substitute a D flat 7 instead. Okay, cool. So that means instead of a regular 2-5-1, we're going to play 2 to the tritone sub for 5 to 1. Alright, let's play that in descending half steps. And of course, if you haven't noticed, the bass note is just descending in half steps. Right. So if we come up and we say D minor 7 to D flat 7 to C major 7. Okay, now let's do it in B. So we're going to have C sharp minor 7 to C7 to B major 7. Alright. C minor 7, B7, B flat major 7, B minor 7, B flat 7, A major 7, B flat minor 7, A7, A flat major 7, A minor 7, A flat 7, G major 7, right? A flat minor 7, G7, G flat major 7, G minor 7, G flat 7 to F major 7, F sharp minor 7, F7 to E major 7, F minor 7, E7 to E flat major 7, E minor 7, E flat 7 to D major 7, E flat minor 7, D7 to D flat major 7. And then we're back where we started. Okay. And then the other setup. Okie doke. Now, the next thing that I want you to practice is we're going to go through, play all these again, but without the 1 chords. So we're going to skip straight from the 5 chord to the next 2 in whatever pattern we're playing. Right? So now instead of going 2, 5, 1, we're going to say 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 2. 2, 5, 2, 5, however long we want to do it, right? And so why do we need to know this? Because this also comes up in tunes. So if you're playing, let's say you're playing Have You Met Miss Jones, right? Right here. Right, so that's a substitution that most bebop players are going to play, right? Or if you're playing like When I Fall in Love, let's say you're at the last bridge, right? He's going to say. If you listen to Keith Jarrett, he always plays that extra 2-5 up a half step. So when he's getting ready to get to that 2-5 there, where he's got the 3rd in the melody of the 2, he's going to put And that's also a real beautiful substitution that we can play. So, let's practice these, okay? D minor 7 to G7, and then this is interesting because the upper voices, the voice leading is the same as though it were going to the regular 1 chord, but instead it goes to the next 2 down a half step, so just the bass note skips a chord, essentially. Okay, or our other setup. Alright, there we are. Now, what if we played straight from the 2 to the 5 to the next 2 around the circle? Let's see what's going to happen there. So if we played our 2, 5, and then our next 2 is going to be G minor 7. Right? Okay, so that happens in tunes also, like when you get to the end of the bridge of Cherokee, right? So we had just played our descending 2 5s, and then we get a 2 to its 5, but then it immediately turns into the 2 a fifth away. Alright, cool. So that's why we got to practice that, because it happened in the end of the bridge of so many tunes. Let's see here. So if we go back to the key of C, right, we're going to have our 2, 5, and this is kind of cool. Alright, so the 7th of the 5 chord is going to stay put. But now the 3rd of the 5 chord is going to slide down a half step to turn that 5 chord, whatever it is, it was G7, it's going to turn itself into a minor 7th chord. So the 7th of that chord is going to stay put, and the 3rd is going to fall to turn into a minor 3rd on that same chord. Okay, so D minor 7 to G7. Next we're going to F, so G minor 7 to C7. Next we're going to B flat, so C minor 7 to F7. Next we're going to E flat, so F minor 7 to B flat 7. Next we go to A flat, so B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. Next we're going to D flat, so E flat minor 7 to A flat 7. Next we're going to G flat, so A flat minor 7 to D flat 7. Next, we are going to B, so C sharp minor 7 to F sharp 7. Excuse me. Next, we're going to E, F sharp minor 7 to B7. Next, we go to A, so B minor 7 to E7. Next, we're going to D, E minor 7 to A7. Next, we're going to G, so A minor 7 to D7. And then finally, we've got our D minor 7 to G7. And we'll end on our 1. How about? End on C major 7. Cool. So now we got to replicate that. D minor 7 to G7. Next we're going to F. G minor 7 to C7. Next we're going to B flat. C minor 7 to F7. So we go to E flat. So F minor 7 to B flat 7. Next we go to A flat. So B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. Next we are going to D flat. So E flat minor 7 to A flat 7. Now we're going to G flat, so A flat minor 7 to D flat 7. Next we go to B, so C sharp minor 7 to F sharp 7. Now we're going to E, so F sharp minor 7 to B7, B minor 7 to E7, E minor 7 to A7, A minor 7 to D7, D minor 7 to G7, back to C. Okay, cool. And then, of course, we also have to do this in whole steps. Right, so going C minor 7, or D minor 7 to G7, C minor 7 to F7, B flat minor, down in whole steps like that. Excuse me. So let's practice both sets of those. Straight to C minor 7, straight to B flat minor 7, straight to A flat minor 7, straight to F sharp minor 7, straight to E minor 7, straight to D minor 7. Okay, and because those are whole steps, of course we've got to repeat that up a half step to fill in the other 6 keys. So we are, where are we going? Up to here, of course. Okay, and both of those in the other setup. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's gotten too low. But if you play it up too high, it's too tinny. So it's, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. That's okay. And then up a half step, of course. Or down a half step, really. I'm going to jump up and... I think I may have overshot the mark a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so now we've got all of that taken care of, but in older jazz styles, the 1 chord is a major 6, not a major 7. In Barry Harris world, which if you're following my channel, I'm sure you're aware that I'm a follower of Barry Harris, he tells us that the real tonic chord is the 6 chord. And when you play a major 7 chord, what that really is C6 with 1 note borrowed from B diminished. And that B diminished note resolves down to the 6th. So let's play a 2-5-1 now, where on the 1 chord, the 7th resolves down another whole step to the 6th. So now the line is going to be that the 7th of the 2 chord falls down to the 3rd of the 5 chord, and then that stays put to become the 7th of the 1 chord and falls down a step to the 6th of the 1 chord. So this is really important. Or the other setup. So let's go through, let's practice all of our 2-5-1s in descending half steps, resolving the 7th on the 1 chord down to the 6th. And then now, that voice is going to have to go right back up where it came from when we go to the 2 chord a half step down, or the 2 chord, the key a half step down. Okay, and then with the other setup. low. So I'm going to reset up an octave. Excuse me. All right. And then, so next up, we got to do that again, but around the circle. So again, resolving to these sixths. So if we play a 2-5-1 in C, this is actually kind of cool. So now both voices are just going to move up a half step to the 2 chord in the next key, a fifth away. So let's play that. So we're going to say our 2-5 in C down to the 6th, and then both voices up a half step. And then we're in F, so now we're going to C minor 7, so both voices up a half step. Now F minor 7, both voices up a half step. When I say both voices, I mean both upper voices, of course. So now we're going to B flat minor 7. Now we're going to E flat minor 7, A flat 7, D flat major 7, D flat 6, right? Now we go to, what are we looking for? So we're going to the next key, to A flat minor 7, of course. Excuse me. You can space out a little bit when you're playing these exercises for long stretches of time, but that's okay. So next we go to C sharp minor 7. Excuse me, not B minor 7, we are going to F sharp minor 7. And then we go to B minor 7. E minor 7. A minor 7. And then back to D minor 7. Okay, and then we'll do our other set of those. To F, to B flat, to E flat, to A flat, to D flat, G flat, to B, now we're getting a little bit low. So how about we go to E up here in this next octave. To A, to D, to G, finally back to C. All right. And then whole steps, right? So now when we play our whole steps, when we get our sixth happening on the 1 chord, we're going to have to move our upper voices in contrary motion again. Okay, so let's go up an octave. So we've got D minor 7 to G7 to C major 7 to C6. These voices move in contrary motion in half steps to the 3rd and 7th of C minor 7. Again. Again. And up a half step. got to do the other set. Notice now those upper voices are moving in contrary motion still, but in the opposite direction from before. We're getting too low. Okay. Did I do both sets there? Sorry, I think I spaced out a little bit. So we got in C, in B flat, in A flat, G flat, E, D, and then back to C, and then up a half step. Okay, good. And then the other sets of both of those, right? Nope. See, that's what happened. I got offset when I jumped up an octave. Right, where was I? I was in C. B flat. A flat, G flat, E, D, and then back to C. And then we got to do that in B now, coming down in half steps. Jump up an octave. Okay, cool. So that's where we started from. Let's do all of this again with resolving to the sixths, but playing the tritones in the bass for the 5 chord. So now upper voices are going to be identical. Only thing that's going to be different is the bass note on the 5 chord. Okay, cool. Here we go. 2 tritone sub for 5, 1 in C, 2 tritone sub for 5, 1 in B, 2 tritone sub for 5, 1 in B flat, 2 tritone sub for 5, 1 in A, 2 tritone sub 1 in A flat, 2 tritone sub 1 in G, okay, 2 tritone sub 1 in G flat, 2 tritone sub 1 in F, 2 tritone sub 1 in E, 2 tritone sub 1 in E flat, 2 tritone sub 1 in D, 2 tritone sub 1 in D flat, and finally we are back to our 2 tritone sub for 5, 1 in C. Okay, let's do that in our other setup. A flat, going to G, going to G flat, going to F, going to E, going to E flat. We're going to jump up an octave, going to D, going to D flat, back in C. You know what? I think I spaced out and forgot to put the sixths in a lot of those chords. So let's do that again. I forgot to put the sixth and the tritone sub. We got to do both of them. Okay. And the other setup, exact same thing. Into B flat, into A, to A flat, to G, to G flat, into F. We're going to jump up an octave. We're going into E, into E flat, into D, into D flat, and then finally we are back into C. All right, so that is about 46 minutes, 47 minutes of 251 guide tone line exercises. Now, I'm not going to go through them all again right now, but you've got to be able to do all of those. Remember back at the beginning of this lesson where I sang each voice and then sang each voice taking the piano away from it? So do all of those exercises singing each voice with the piano and without the piano. And this is going to be so helpful for just learning to hear your way through these changes when they come up in tunes, when you have to improvise on them. Or maybe you're a horn player and you've got to improvise some backing parts. Or you're a singer and you want to be able to sing some harmony lines that are intelligent through it. Anyway, so I hope you have found this helpful, and let me know in the comments below, and I will see you soon. I know I've been absent for a long time, but I've got a lot of videos planned that I'm planning on getting to you soon. So I hope everyone's doing well during these crazy times, and I will see you soon.